It's a pleasure to be alive in 2021, and even more so to be able to celebrate meetings and coincidences like this one that connect us despite the distance. I happen to live and work in a part of the planet that, in the words of our poet laureate, is an island surrounded by land. We are the hot core of South America. And in this particular country, 21 nations coexist, 21 ideas of the world, 21 ways of naming the cosmos, 21 religions, 21 ways of articulating thoughts. And through the coexistence and the cohabitation with 21 nations, we have learned to look at the other, building bridges of closeness. Perhaps knowing means being aware of the similarities, of the differences. Perhaps knowing means realizing the differences, but understand, however, means the construction of similarities. To build similarities, to construct a universe where, in spite of the differences, there are underlying reasons for us all to be able to reconcile and be together, is one of the most important privileges that emanates from this land, and that makes the vision that seeks to transcend our local condition reach or aspire all the time to meet with the other, and therefore to achieve universal values. Our architecture has always tried to do just that, to build this bridge of similarity. We do not consider the difference between an Eskimo and ourselves. We, Eskimos and Paraguayans, fight against the harshness of the climate to make our lives as pleasant as possible. We have, as in Arabia and France and in the rest of the world, limited resources, and we know that intelligence is the common bond between all human beings. And it's that intelligence that allows us to discover from all matter, from every opportunity, each time we encounter the other, to deploy resources and opportunities to make everything better in life. Perhaps the mandate, or the most refined explanation of what we do, is that architecture is the custodian, the caretaker of the habitability of beings as humans. The habitability, the scenarios that we build in order to exist, vary over time. But the main construction is not that of the scenario. The main construction is that of the experience of ourselves, beings who seek to be human. If the minimum human is two, less than two hominids, my humanity is an imaginary act. Living beings are connected by sympathies. They reject each other due to aversion. And you can even put yourself in the place of the other by being empathetic. But the human act is to imagine that I am the other, at the very least an other. My humanity starts with the understanding that I am another and that I must take care of myself in order to be well, and that this human minimum that starts with two can be until we are all each other. By understanding ourselves within this all, we try to give ourselves answers that allow us to live better. 31 years ago, how time flies. We had done a small construction project, and from the building of this first project, we made about $5,000 at that time. With $5,000 at that time, we could have bought 2 computers, or we could have tried to build our office. We went the route of building our office. At the time, for the lights, for the table, the rulers, the models, etc., etc., we needed approximately 100 square meters of construction. So we had to build our offices, our desk, at $50 per square meter. During that time, I had attended all kinds of training sessions in different offices, at the university, etc., etc. And what we knew how to build, and we did build well, with assertion, that cost around $350 to $400 a square meter. Therefore, we had to be able to build 8 times less at the lowest cost, which is what the cost of the traditional square meter was supposed to be. So we were faced with the challenge of inventing a universe of possibilities, or we had to say to ourselves the same thing that our business was saying to everyone else: go get more money, and when you have that money, come and see us, and we'll do something tasteful for you. In the meantime, you have to get by as best you can, solve your problems as best you can. As we tried to understand the implications that economy has on processes, we began to understand that there was a huge difference between the notion of the financial exercise and the notion of the realities necessary to produce something with limited resources, and that this economy could, in some way, be of interest to different sectors of the process, understanding that in order to be able to build at 8 times less than what we wanted to build, we had to use at least 8 times less material. And we had to be able to reduce or change the construction processes so that the same labor force needed for any project in society would be able to produce with much more skill, more square meters and better opportunities for everyone. And with this challenge that we imposed on ourselves, we began this exercise almost like a bridge between the past and the epiphany of trying to make this a continuous present, to make this a single work in progress, constantly carried out in different places, with different programs, with different names, but it continued to be our original goal of being able, by satisfying the demands and needs of an individual through this exercise, to strengthen the social condition that has a range of responses in our process that architecture had not produced before. we understood very clearly that we are not operators of a discipline. We understood with great lucidity that we are builders of better societies, and that the construction of a better society is the ultimate aim of all our efforts. By understanding ourselves within this present continuum, we took ownership of an intelligent quote by Jorge Luis Borges, Pierre Menard, author of Don Quixote, a fantastic story that in one of its concluding paragraphs says, thinking and analyzing, inventing are not anomalous acts. They are the normal breathing of intelligence. To glorify its potential use, to recall with incredulous amazement what Dr. Universal has invented, is only to confess our languor or our barbarism. Every man must be capable of all ideas, and I understand that in the future he will be. If we are able to use the common bond of all human beings, which is intelligence, we will be able to, by observing our capacities and observing our doings, to build a universe of opportunities for ourselves. If we live on a planet where the best of the projects we have done together leaves more than 60% of the world's population living below the poverty line, and of that 50%, then 30% live in abject misery, how is it possible to argue that the way out is to promote more of the same? Wishing them out of indifference the goodwill to transform themselves into something similar to us, when in reality construction is about the opposite. We must be who we can be in the world. Our work, in a way, tries to provide answers to these questions, to these basic conditionings. Our work, due to a lack of resources, faces the challenge of inverting a series of roles and preconceptions that are widespread throughout the world. Building well, as our discipline taught us, from our training at university to the first professional project developed in studios already established in my country, construction, in any construction process, the cost of materials is generally around 70% of the final cost of the construction. And we are trying to reduce more effectively the part of labor, the use of labor in the construction process. We have tried during this time to reverse this condition, precisely by requiring the materials, by choosing them with the intelligence that their extraordinary capacity of resistance can give us, to stand up to even the toughest demands with the least amount of material used for the effect. and reversing the process, understanding that it is the workmanship that can transform a simple stone into a monument, into a construction that is capable and that rises in defense of and to be a guardian of the possibility of life. Our cities are crowded with specialisms from an industrial era which has trained the individuals who will use the evolved materials to be able to provide the answers which their own markets generate. But at the same time, this civilizing idea forgets and marginalizes a large percentage of the world's population that is tangential and peripheral to it, without the possibility of being able to structure itself and build a destiny together. Perhaps if we were to change, perhaps if we were able to make our main construction material the capacity to do that human beings have, and that each human being is the bearer of an extraordinary tool capable of producing supination, pronation, translation, and rotation, and with this incredible capacity to use matter in the most efficient way in order to invigorate the scenario where collective life is able to exist. All these answers come precisely from the attempt to do what we do not know how to do, from trying to define what we have not yet been able to define. To be able to do this, to be able to take these decisive steps, we need more than ever to be able to build in collaboration with the people. To be able to face the fear of the unknown, we need to appeal to remember the most extraordinary force that has allowed us, from the first moment of our life, the resource to face all possible changes. In the words of Umberto Maturana, I like to use the quote he dedicated to his mother, and I hope I will always be able to dedicate it to mine and to the mother of my son, which is the understanding that I was never afraid, because my mother always loved me. When I didn't know anything, when I didn't know how to do anything, when I didn't know how to put food in my mouth, my mother's unconditional love allowed me to fail so many times until I managed to do and to be who I needed to be. To stand up, to communicate, to establish links, and to be able to work in coordination with everyone. If the condition of understanding the other, if the imaginary construction of being the other is based mainly on this loving force that allows me to fail enough times, the opposite of this construction and this idea, the opposite of love, is not hate, it is fear. It is fear that concentrates in ourselves and prevents us from rising up in defense of that collective expansion that we can all be together. We need, more than ever, to be able to embrace a constitutively human condition which allows us to do what we do not know how to do, courageously and confidently throwing ourselves into the understanding that construction occurs through the strengthening of our relationship with others, which without a doubt is an act of love and which requires a fight against fear in order to be complete. In these times of such severe crisis, the beginning of what we assume is going to put our growth mechanisms on hold, we need more than ever to recognize ourselves, to be able to see what we have not seen so far, to hear what we have not been able to hear so far, to support, to sustain, to sustain all human differences in such a way that those who think differently give different results and are capable of showing us and encouraging a different universe, the one we managed to build collectively to try to be better. Thank you very much for allowing me to spend this time with you. Unfortunately, I can't make the trip this time to embrace and meet you, but I want you to know that this means a lot. It's an extraordinary encouragement and a great sense of affection for us to continue doing every day what I have tried to explain. Thank you very much to the organization of Global Awards. It is truly an honor and a privilege to belong to your organization. Thank you very much.